to another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed. And wow, big show today. We've got the AFC and NFC title games to talk about, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube page at the Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast, at the Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast, and follow us on Twitter or X at Dave Sports Guy. Well, let's get right to it, shall we? We've got a rematch of the Super Bowl, the great Super Bowl game from about 10 years ago when the Patriots and Tom Brady defeated the Seattle Seahawks when Pete Carroll made the single dumbest decision in the history of the Super Bowl by not running with beast mode Marshawn Lynch down there on the 1 yard line at the end of the game. He chose to throw. Interception by Russell Wilson. Another Super Bowl championship for Tom Brady. Well, it's going to happen again. The Patriots and the Seahawks coming up in the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. So let's recap the two games right now. We'll start with the early game. Patriots and Broncos. Patriots win 10-7 in snowy, frigid conditions in Denver against the backup quarterback by the name of Jarrett Stidham. And I think there were two huge plays that decided this game. Number one, Sean Payton deciding to go for it in the first half with a 7-0 lead. I believe it was in the first quarter. Broncos up 7-0. They've got the ball 4th and 1 in chip shot field goal range. Now, you know who you're listening to right here? The great Dave Smith, the old sports guy. And I advocate going for it on 4th down more than anybody. I've always been an advocate of going for it on 4th down. I don't think coaches do it enough. Dave Smith Unleashed brought to you by MTS Transportations. And mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment for all your shipping, trucking, and freight needs. There's only one business to call, and that's MTS Transportations at 800-640-6873. MTS Transportations, 800-640-6873. But in this situation, I would have kicked it there and taken the points. I think a 10-0 lead with a backup quarterback in Jarrett Stidham in those conditions. Yeah, if Bo Nix is playing quarterback, I probably would have said go for it. With Jarrett Stidham there, absolutely not. You have to take the points. I think a 10-0 lead would have been huge. A 2-score lead at that point of the game for the Broncos. I think Sean Payton made a colossal mistake there. Decides to go for it. Stidham, the backup quarterback who hasn't played in 3 years, throws the pick. And it kind of turned the game around. So I think one huge play was Sean Payton going for it instead of kicking the field goal with a 7-0 lead. And boy, how can we forget the Patriots' only touchdown? That Denver defense was great yesterday. They didn't give up a single touchdown to the Patriots offense. The only way the Patriots scored was, again, Jarrett Stidham, who was awful in that game. Other than the one drive where he threw the deep ball and then threw a touchdown pass where he looked pretty good. Outside of that, he was horrible. And he was Jarrett Stidham. That's why he's been a backup quarterback his whole career and why that's all he'll ever be the rest of his career. But he goes back to pass. He kind of panics. He gets hit. He still has the ball. And he tries to shovel it forward, but it comes free and it goes backwards, which turns it into a lateral inside his own 20. The Patriots scramble, pick it up, and run in for a touchdown. But as usual, the referees screwed up. They blew the whistle and made the play dead. Listen, referees, just let everything play out. Don't blow your whistles. We can always go to review. We can always go to challenge. Let the review people handle it. Again, but those incompetent referees blow the whistle. And then, wow, Gene Steratore. I was more confused afterwards with his explanation than I was at the time. The incompetent Gene Steratore didn't explain anything. But evidently the officials blew the whistles. But the Patriots take over deep in Denver territory. They wind up scoring. And that was the ball game as they win 10-7. And it came down to Stidham not being ready for prime time. And again, awful after that early 7-0 lead. Would the Broncos have won with Bo Nix at quarterback? I say yes. I say they would have. He couldn't, even in the snow and the bad weather, he couldn't possibly have been as bad as Stidham was yesterday. Wow. And how about kudos to Mike Vrabel? How about, wow. First year as a head coach with the New England Patriots. They won 4 games last year. Now they're sitting there going to the Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm going to give him and Josh McDaniels credit. I thought the single best call of the game, and maybe the best call of the year in the NFL. Patriots had a 3rd down late in the game in the last. If they have to punt there, the Broncos are going to get the ball back with Close to 2 minutes left. We're going to get the ball back at the 2-minute warning, and I know he probably wouldn't have taken him down the field for a field goal, but who knows? You never know. And they call bootleg as Drake May fakes the handoff, boots left, outruns the linebacker, and gets the first down. Then it was 3 kneel downs in the game. So that was the best call of the year in the National Football League. So kudos to Josh McDaniels, kudos to Mike Vrabel, and kudos to Vrabel for taking the Patriots to the Super Bowl in his first year. Okay, now let's get to the second game. I know a lot of you out there who subscribe to me, listen to me on local talk radio in L.A. all these years, and have a lot of opinions about the boy wonder, Sean McVay. Seattle beats the Rams 31-27. Seattle's going to the Super Bowl. And I think, who's the luckiest man on earth? Well, a guy named Rick Woolen, a defensive back with the Seattle Seahawks. 2:20 left in the third quarter. Seattle up 31-20. They're up 11. And they stopped the Rams on 4th and 12. And the Rams are sending out the punt team. If Seattle can score again there, they go up 18. Ball game. Game over. But this selfish piece of you-know-what, Rick Woolen, runs over to the Rams bench and starts taunting the coaches and the players. Gets a 15-yard penalty. Rams maintain possession, and then to make matters worse for Woolen, then he gets beat on the next play for a touchdown by Puka Nacua. Now it's 31-27 instead of the Seahawks being up 31-20 and having the ball. Now they're only up 31-27 because of this idiot, this dumbass Woolen getting the taunting penalty. And he's the luckiest man on earth, I believe, that Seattle held on and won that game. Wow. And let me ask a question here to the referees. On the next possession, the Rams, Cameron Kinchens, he sacked Sam Darnold for a huge loss, about a 15-yard loss. He made a good play on a blitz. Then he stands over him. He went into a dance. He was shaking his ass around. He grabbed his junk, and he went into a dance right next to the fallen Sam Darnold. How is that not taunting? And the Seattle fans were booing because they were wondering, where's the taunting penalty there? If that's not taunting, I've never seen taunting. He grabbed his junk, he shook his ass, and he did a long, exaggerated dance, standing right at center field. How is that not taunting, referees? But it's not called. So there was 14-18 left to go in the fourth quarter. When that wasn't called, the Rams get the ball back at 31-27. It looked like they're going to win the game. They drive down the field, but they don't convert on a fourth down on a Matthew Stafford throw. And that was basically the game. But my goodness, the ups and downs in this game. And how about some credit here for not only for Matthew Stafford, who was 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 374 yards, and had a great year, will probably be the MVP this year. And let's hope he doesn't retire like some people are saying. Because why would you retire on top of your game like that? Maybe if the Rams won the Super Bowl this year, yes, which I predicted would happen before the season started, maybe. But I don't think he wants to go out on this note. I think he's going to be back next year. He's at the top of his game. Why would he retire? If they won the Super Bowl, yes. If not, he's going to be back next year. And, we got to give credit to Sam Darnold as well. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 300 yards passing. And he silenced all the critics, me included, that said he usually comes unglued in tight games and gets tight and doesn't play well in the biggest games. Well, he did yesterday. He was fantastic. He had a great year. Sam Darnold's arrived as an elite quarterback. The Jets almost ruined him his first 3 years in the NFL. They did everything they could to ruin his career, and that's why they're the Jets. Then he goes on and plays great for Minnesota last year, plays great yesterday, and has the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Now let's talk about the Rams defensive coordinator, Chris Shula. Now, people are talking about him as a head coach, and I would say, why? Their defense was awful in the playoff. They gave up a bunch of points to the Carolina Panthers. They gave up a late drive to the Bears. They gave up 31 again yesterday. Couldn't stop the Seahawks when they had to. And I saw a stat this morning. 40% of the drives in the postseason by their opponents have resulted in touchdowns. This guy's an elite defensive coordinator? No. And memo to Chris Shula. Jackson Smith and Jigba of the Seattle Seahawks, he's pretty good. I think he had 150 yards receiving and over 10 catches in the NFC Championship game. You might want to make an adjustment, wonder Sean McVay and defensive coordinator Chris Shula. You might want to have somebody actually guarding him. He's running around free all game with nobody near him, catching touchdown passes, making huge third down conversions, and no Ram defender anywhere near Jackson Smith and Jigba. How about call an adjustment, Sean McVay? How about doing something different, Chris Shula? I wouldn't hire Chris Shula to walk my dog or be my landscaper if I were an NFL team. Nonetheless, making my head coach. And we can't part ways here without talking about Xavier Smith for the Rams. You talk about a huge play. You talk about a game changer. You talk about a play that maybe cost the Rams the Super Bowl. Rams down 17-13. Seattle punting. And he gets, I know the balls float. The balls are like a knuckleball up there in the air, and you have a hard time catching the punt there. He falls down, and he's laying on his back. At that point, you got to roll out of the way and not try to catch the ball. I mean, disaster is waiting. And while laying flat on his back, he actually tried to catch it. It hits him in the hands, rolls away. Seattle recovers, and then they take it in for a score to go up 24-13. That was a huge mistake and a huge play. So, wow. Yeah, I felt sorry for the kid, Xavier Smith, but it was a stupid play trying to catch it. So, luckiest man on earth, Rick Woolen of the Seahawks with that selfish, stupid-ass taunting penalty he got. Another lucky guy, Cameron Kitchens for the Rams, who did not get a taunting penalty with the junk-grabbing, ass-shaking, exaggerated dance over the carcass of Sam Darnold. If you called one the possession before, how's that not taunting, NFL referees? And Chris Shula, again, I wouldn't hire him to take out my garbage. Nonetheless, make him a head coach. So that's it. We have the Seahawks and the Patriots. I'm making an early prediction. I just think the Seahawks are going to roll. I'm not impressed with the Patriots. They got lucky that Bo Nix didn't play. Their offense has been horrendous throughout the postseason. It's a great story with the head coach, Mike Vrabel. I just think Seattle on both sides of the ball are dominant, and they're going to win the Super Bowl and bring a championship home to the Pacific Northwest. And that's it for me. So that's it for Dave Smith and Dave Smith Unleashed. Make sure to follow me on the YouTube page at the Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast, at the Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast. Like, follow, and subscribe. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at Dave Sports Guy, because I'm always posting when the next show is going to be, who the guests are going to be, what time and day it's going to be on. So that's it for me, and we'll talk to you next time on Dave Smith Unleashed.